Hey you guys, my name is Roman, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to write a program in Java that checks if a given word is a palindrome or not. We'll be using both a stack and a queue, and I'm hoping to not only show you how to write an effective solution to this problem, but also to give you a better understanding of how stacks and queues work in programming. Note that I'm currently using Visual Studio, but I imagine a lot of you are using Eclipse instead. No need to worry. If you are using Eclipse, following along with this tutorial should be no problem. The only difference really is in creating projects as well as in creating and importing classes. In VS Code, to create a new project, you come here to Java Projects, click the add symbol, select No Build Tools, and select your directory. And just name it give it a moment. And to create a new class, you just go to source and add your file. We already have a class added here, app.java. To run it in VS Code, the option should pop up in a little bit. Give it a moment. Just select run, and it'll print hello world. And if your project uses multiple classes and importing is involved, then the process is a little different. Let me show you. I'm going to go back to the Palindrome Checker project. And okay, here we have the driver program, which imports the check_pally file or class, makes an instance of it. And the way it works is when you import, you first of all put in the folder name the class is under and the class itself. So in this case, it's under the check_pally folder. Let me extend this here. Here is the class we are importing, and in order to make it importable, you put this at the top, package check_pally, and that's about it. I know the process for Eclipse is a little different, where a menu pops up prompting you to define your class. If you want to use this class in a different file, as I've shown you, you just import it as shown here. And I know that in Eclipse this is not necessary, but other than that, there's really nothing else to worry about in terms of differences between VS Code and Eclipse, at least for this program. Let's run the program to see what we get. Let me just clear the terminal. Run. Let's start off with the real simple palindrome. Dad. Dad is a palindrome. But if I were to put Morocco instead, Morocco is not a palindrome, since it is not spelt the same way backwards as it is forwards. Simple. Before we jump into coding, let's first of all quickly go over stacks and queues and our game plan on how we're going to use them for our program. Here's what's going to happen. Say we are given the string kayak, an obvious palindrome. That is, it's the same spelled forwards as it is backwards. Our program will first of all create one stack and one queue for string. The word, or string, will be broken down into substrings and turned into a stack and queue, as shown. They look the same, just like any normal array, but the difference lies in how items are added and removed from each of them. Stacks are first in, last out, meaning that as you add items to them, the most recent added item will be removed once it has to be used. You can think of this as, say, a stack of plates where the topmost item is always the one to be removed first once it's ready to use. And to add items back in the stack, you use the add method. Queues, on the other hand, are first in, first out, so it's the opposite. As items get added, it is the last added item that will be removed first, just like a line of people, which works along a first come, first served basis. And this removing is done with the pull method. To add back in, you use add. To remove items from a stack, on the other hand, we use the pop method, which we'll see in the next slide. Here's our game plan. After we've created the stack and queue given the string, we are going to loop over each one and compare the last item in the stack with the first item in the queue using pop and pull methods. If they are the same, we keep looping until we either come across two letters that are not the same, which in that case we break out of the loop and print out a string telling the user that the given string is not a palindrome. Otherwise, we make it to the end and print a string telling us that it is one. So here, first of all, K is being compared in both cases. The pop and pull method do their thing, remove it, and move on to the next loop. Now string stack.pop is equal to A, and string queue.pull is also equal to A. And this keeps going until we reach the end. With that out the way, let's jump into coding. Or if you'd rather not, I've put the link to the code's GitHub repo in the description. Just as I've shown you in the beginning of the video, to create a new Java project, you come here to Java Projects, click the plus symbol, no build tools, select the directory, name it, and give it a moment, and you're all set to begin. Let's start off by creating a new folder in our source folder. We'll call it check pally. And within that, we're going to put our check pally Java file. This is where the majority of our code is going to go. Our main function, we'll call it run code. It doesn't return anything, which is why we declare it as void. Let's start off by creating a scanner object so that our program can read the user's input. Then we got to import scanner. And let's just print out the initial string. What should we make it say? Let's put enter string. After that, we have to create variables we have to create one variable that'll contain the user's input. So let's just put string 1. This will get whatever the user inputted. So let's make another string 2. We're going to use the replace all method to do this. For the first argument, we're going to put in the regex, which is what we use when we want to find strings that contain certain characters. So this will grab all letters A through Z, lowercase or uppercase, and all numbers 0 through 9. And anything other than that, which is what this symbol is used for, will be replaced by an empty string. After that, we turn the whole thing to lowercase using to lowercase. Now let's create our base case handling logic. So we don't want to go straight for the for loop and compare the substrings in the stack and queue, because what if to begin with the user just inputs nothing, an empty string? In that case, we don't want to go for that for loop. And that is where the base case comes in. So, this is supposed to be replace all. String 2, if it is equal to an empty string, or if string 2 is equal to an empty string with a space, we type in goodbye. If the base case doesn't run, then we go to this else statement, which will contain the majority of our code. Let's create our stack and our queue. Make sure we import it. Import linked list as well. Whoops. And in case you don't know, a queue is a linked list. In other words, a linked list is not necessarily a type in its own, in the sense that you cannot directly use it. Instead, it has to be implemented in some form. In this case, we are implementing linked list as a queue. Now let's move on to creating a for loop, which will add in all the characters of the string into both the stack and the queue. We're just going to go with the real simple for loop. I know there's faster ways of doing this, but we're just going to go with the simple way, or rather the most basic way for now. Start with the string or a stack. And do the same thing for the queue. Okay, so notice how we use char at. Now, in Java, there's a difference between strings and chars, whereas strings is this or this. A char, on the other hand, is a single letter, right? So this will convert the given string into a char and add it to the stack. As you can see, when we declare the stack, we declared it as a character stack, right? So it won't accept strings, just single characters, which is what we're getting here. Now let's create another for loop. Just copy this one over. String 1. Okay. this should be string2.length. We're getting this string without all the fancy stuff in it. Okay. And in here, this is where we are going to do the comparison. Okay. String stack.pop. We're going to compare these two. If you remember, this is the topmost item in the stack, and this is the first item in the queue. We pop them, and when it is popped, that variable gets stored here. And same thing with the pull. We remove the first item, and it gets stored here, and these are the two values we are comparing. Whoops. In here, we're going to create a variable, isPally, and here we set it to false. And where should we put it? In here. As it is a Boolean, we declare it as such, and initially we set it to true. So initially this is true. And as we are looping, if we find two letters that are not the same, we turn it to false. Simple, right? And that's it for the comparison logic. Now we just have to check if isPally is true or not. All right. Let me just grab this. We're going to put string2, or actually, let's make it string1 here, since that is what the user inputted. We want to output what they inputted, if that makes sense. Is not a palindrome. Otherwise, we put that it is a palindrome. And that's it for our logic. Another thing I've added in this console.close, because if you remember here, we created a scanner object console, and now we have to actually close it. That's what we're gonna do right here. Now let's create the driver file, which is where we actually run the program. Do it in source.java. Okay. First of all, we want to import checkPally, as it's in the checkPally folder. That's where we get it from. Okay. And here we define our main method. And since it doesn't return anything, we declare it as void. We create a checkPally object. Let's call it checker. And remember, from our checkPally file, we have a method here called run. Let's call it on the object we just created. Finally, let's run this to see if it works. Let's start with something simple. Kayak. Oops. It should say is a palindrome with a space. Okay. There you go. It is a palindrome. What about Taco Cat? Taco Cat is a palindrome. As you can see, it's ignoring the spaces. That's all thanks to the regex we created here. Let's run this again. Let's try something harder. Madam, I'm Adam. Yeah, it works. But if I were to put, say, Warren the sheep, it's a little character I created. Warren the sheep is, it's doing the same thing. Okay. No problem. Warren the sheep. All right. And if I put Hideo Kojima is not a palindrome. There you go. It works perfectly. Thank you guys for watching my video. I know it was real short and simple, but I'm hoping you were able to gain something new from it, especially if, say, you had a school project to do, or you simply wanted to learn more about Java or data structures. If you did learn something new, please leave a like or even subscribe for more great videos in the future. I love you guys. See you in the next one.